for joining us today. I hope almost all of you were able to participate in the retreat and you found it useful. It was phenomenal discussions. Before we begin, I'd like to offer a warm welcome to our two new board members who, making it easy on me, decided to sit with each other. So first, Bill Dotson. Bill is president and CEO of Modern Door and Equipment Sales. If you don't know what that is, it is not a garage door. But if you look at Jim Chang, and behind him is this massive door that would allow this room to be 2 rooms, or that way to be 4 rooms. That's what Bill does. Over the course of his career, he has worked to transform the company into North America's leading space management company, generating more than $50 million annually. In addition to his business career, Bill serves as the senior policy advisor for the Institute of Legislative Analysis and previously served as a judge on Charles County Orphans Court, overseeing estate and guardianship matters. Hard work that is. So Bill is a relatively recent transplant to Virginia, coming to us and bringing his business from Maryland. Bill, welcome. Would you like to say a few words?
Oh, thank you. First, an honor to be here, and nice to meet everybody for the first time. As she said, I'm a lifelong Marylander. I grew up in a place Fort Tobacco, Maryland. My great-grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence from Maryland from that point. And so it was hard to leave Maryland. Anyway, the state of Maryland made it easy to leave. I served under the Hogan administration for 8 years. I was saying regulatory, and a lot of people say, why do businesses leave states? It's usually regulations more than it is taxes. And so Maryland now is just leading state in the United States for businesses leaving to go other places, and high income others also. And so I'm one of them. Came here in 23. Happy to be here. Happy to serve.
We are delighted to have you. Thanks for coming to Virginia. Bill also said a lot of businesses are leaving Maryland. The good news is they're coming to Virginia, and we'd like to have even more. Thomas Ranson, good friend of mine from I don't know when, a long time ago. We are so delighted to have Thomas with us. He serves as president of Virginia's region of Truist Financial, where he integrates and brings the full set of Truist financial solutions to the market. He looked around the room and said, well, I knew that person and that person and that person. And pretty soon he said, well, really, everybody here's my client. Tom leads the commercial, middle market, corporate, and not-for-profit and other sales teams across the state. In addition to his business career, he was appointed to the board of trustees for his alma mater, Hampton-Sydney College. In 2022, he was sworn into Virginia Governor's Advisory Council on Revenue Estimates, where he applies his expertise to the economy to help move the state forward. I'm sure he's given you lots of advice, Secretary Cummins. That's a particularly interesting council to be on. I've been on that through 3 governors, and it's a fascinating group. You can find more information about both of these members in your packet, but I'd like to give Thomas an opportunity to say a few words if you'd like.
I'm honored and privileged to be here, see so many friends in the room, and look forward to serving. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for being here. Cody, would you please do the roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Nancy.
Here.
Reggie. Here. Jim Shen. Here. Stephen Cummings. Ben Davenport. Bill Dotson. Craig Deeds. Cliff Lee. Haywood Fraley. Joel Crippen. Kenneth Johnson. Delegate Kilgore. John King. Senator Lucas. Delegate Maldonado. Senator McDougal.
Here.
Emily O'Quinn. John Peterson. Fawad Creedham. Thomas Ransom. Speaker Scott.
Here.
Secretary Segura. Secretary Slater.
Here.
Delegate Torian. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you, Cody, and thanks to all of you for coming today. At this time, we'd like to open the floor for comments from the public. Cody, could you please recognize any members of the public who would like to make a public comment?
Madam Chair, I think we had one person who signed up to provide public comment. Allison Denby.
Hello, thank you. I'm Allison Varner Denby from Go Virginia Region 8. And I think later on your agenda, we'll be talking about the child care initiative request for consideration. And so our Harrisonburg, Rockingham County Chamber of Commerce has submitted a letter that I will be reading out loud on their behalf. Dear Chairman Agee and State Board of Go Virginia Region 8, on behalf of the employee and members of the Harrisonburg Rockingham Chamber of Commerce, I write to you today respectfully asking that this board formally recognize early education and childcare as a critical industry that directly advances Go Virginia's stated goals of improving workforce readiness, recruitment, and retention. Our region's employers engaged in many aspects of the Commonwealth's economy, spanning pharmaceutical production, transportation and fulfillment logistics, computer technology manufacturing, equipment manufacturing, and food processing, face a persistent barrier to workforce productivity and economic stability, inadequate access to early education and childcare providers. Our employer members consistently report that employee access to quality early education and childcare serves as an economic multiplier and competitive disadvantage. This infrastructure directly impacts workforce productivity, recruitment, and retention across all these sectors. In response to this urgent need expressed by our members, we have identified early education and childcare availability as the critical infrastructure necessary to sustain our regional economic development. Throughout our region and on the Commonwealth, private, public, corporate, for-profit, and nonprofit entities are implementing diverse initiatives, projects, and operational models. While these independent efforts produce incremental improvements, they cannot prevent the workforce breakdown occurring across the industries without permanent, dedicated financial support. While independent efforts do have their place, it is our belief that the Commonwealth needs coordinated investment in childcare infrastructure to sustain our workforce and maintain the Virginia's economic competitiveness and stability. I welcome the opportunity to engage with you on this topic and present the board with detailed information about the innovative early education and childcare initiatives unique to Harrisonburg City and Rockingham County. I'm available at your convenience to discuss these programs and answer any questions for the board may have on the subject. With sincere regards, Christopher Quinn, President and CEO of the Harrisonburg and Rockingham Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate your sharing that, and it will be part of our minutes, of course. Cody, do we have any written comments?
Yes, ma'am, and I will read those comments. This letter says, on behalf of our respective regional councils, we, the undersigned Go Virginia regional representatives, expressed to the State Board that the limited availability of quality childcare services inhibits the growth of our identified priority industry sectors. Similar to Board Policy Number 17, approved in 2024 for the healthcare sector, we urge the State Board to consider exercising the authority outlined in Board Policy Number 4 to adopt a new policy allowing Go Virginia funding to support the workforce in priority traded sectors through the expansion of childcare services. Reports and studies across the Commonwealth consistently demonstrate that the limited availability of childcare services inhibits the workforce as workers are forced to either leave their jobs to stay home with young children or move to areas where childcare is more readily available. A 2022 survey of Virginia employers representing a range of industries, sizes, and locations revealed that 76% of employees leave their positions for reasons related to childcare. A 2023 JLARC report found that 140,000 additional childcare slots were needed to meet the needs of Virginia families. The vast economic impact of this shortage is outstanding. An estimated $3.1 billion annually in foregone wages, lost productivity, and unrealized tax revenue in the state of Virginia, according to a 2023 Ready Nation report. Creating an opportunity for regional entities to support the workforce by means of advancing childcare as a critical infrastructure will lead to job creation and talent attraction and retention in our target sectors. We assert that implementing such a policy is directly aligned with the goals and missions of Go Virginia program and will enhance our ability to meet them. And this is sincerely from William Amos, Chair of Region 2, Paul Denham, Vice Chair of Go Virginia Region 2, Lauren Willis, Chair of Go Virginia Region 3, Tom France, Chair of Go Virginia Region 5, and Lynn Taylor, Vice Chair of Go Virginia Region 5.
Thank you, Cody. And we now have a policy committee, so we will refer that to the policy committee. Well, speaking of policy committee, you all recall that a couple of years ago, we did a major overhaul of our bylaws. And at that, Pia Trigiani was with us last night for the reception. She did a yeoman's work in getting all that done. And we created several committees. We also created term limits for our chair and some other vice chair positions. So we talked earlier that we're almost 10 years old and we've got a really significant structure carrying us into the next decade. So at this time, we will hold election of officers. And in accordance with board tradition, I'm going to relinquish my duties as chair and recognize Maggie Beal. We recognized Maggie earlier. She's the new director of DHCD, under which our agency within an agency public-private partnership is housed. Maggie, if you'd be willing to take over the duties.
Good afternoon. I'm Maggie Beal. I'm the new director for the Department of Housing and Community Development. I have the honor of presiding over our election of officers. I would note that I'm asked to note that the Go Virginia Board created several committees as part of the updated bylaws. One of those committees, the Governance and Policy Committee, is granted power to serve as the nominating committee. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for nominations and recognize Emily O'Quinn, Chair of the Governance and Policy Committee, to report on the slate of nominees.
Thank you, Director Beal. As several of you may recall, as you were part of that meeting, on July 30th, the Governance and Policy Committee met and during the meeting nominated members for each of the 3 open leadership positions for the Go Virginia Board. These are the nominees that the committee voted to recommend to the board. For the position of chair of the board, the committee nominates me, Emily O'Quinn. For the position of vice chair of program performance and evaluation, the committee nominates Jim Chang. And for the position of vice chair of regional councils, the committee nominates John King.
Thank you, Ms. O'Quinn. So following Robert's Rules of Order, we'll also open the floor to additional nominations. And just to be clear, nominations do not require a second. Are there any nominations from the floor? Great. given that we have one nominee, Ms. Emily O'Quinn, for the position of chair, I'd like to ask for a voice vote. All in favor? All opposed?
I will abstain.
It's the position of the chair that the ayes have it. Congratulations, Madam Chair. And the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Director Beal. Next, I'd like to call for a vote to elect Jim Chang to the position of Vice Chair of Program Performance and Evaluation. All those in favor of that, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations, Jim. And lastly, I'll call for a vote to elect John King to the position of Vice Chair of Regional Councils. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? Very good. Congratulations, John. Well, before we move on to the consent agenda, I want to first say thank you to Nancy for her leadership and chairmanship. It's certainly set a bar to try to attain, so I appreciate your work. I think we're all in your debt for all that you've done for this organization, so thank you. Appreciate it. And I do want to say thank you for the vote of confidence in me and Jim and John. We are going to do our very best for you and look forward to working with each of you to continue to advance the initiatives that we've talked about earlier today. Lots of great discussion and I think opportunities at our fingertips. And so I welcome feedback from board members if you have ideas for ways we can do things better. Certainly reach out, and I look forward to working with each of you in this new capacity. All right, so to the consent agenda, you'll see in your packets that there are several items there, including minutes from the June meeting of the board, FY25 Region 4 capacity building budget approval, the 2026 State Board quarterly meeting calendar, the Regional Council's certifications, and an amendment to Board Policy number 3, as well as an amendment to Board Policy number 9. We will take these as a block unless someone wishes to remove anything from that consent agenda block. Does any member wish to remove an item? Okay, hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the items before us as a block as recommended, please? Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thanks. Any discussion before we vote? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And any opposed? All right, the block is approved. Next up on the agenda is the Deputy Director's report, including several applications before us for consideration. Sarah, would you please provide us with that overview?
Yes, absolutely. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So we're going to be presenting today 9 applications, which are per capita funded. As if you remember, the Go Virginia Fund is specifically divided into 2 funds. A per capita fund, which is allocated to the regions based on their population, and something we call a competitive fund, and that fund is available for exceptional economic opportunities for single regions or joint regional applications. We've presented it on this deck because I really want to draw attention to the industries of focus and interest. I'm going to be talking about them in terms of investment strategies, but these are the 5 industries that collective applications are really designed to serve and support. Advanced manufacturing, aerospace and autonomous systems, clean energy, which we've already discussed today, and information and emerging technology, as well as logistics. Just briefly a bit on traded clusters and local clusters or non-traded clusters. Go Virginia does focus its attention and resources on traded industry clusters. This is an illustration actually from Harvard, I believe, that describes traded clusters as the engines of regional economies. They do serve markets in other regions or nations. They tend to concentrate in areas, and that affords specific competitive advantages. Maritime is probably one of the most intensely developed clusters in Virginia, and you can understand and see how there's a supply chain, there's a shared labor pool, there's really unique service industry characteristics that know and understand that industry deeply. So that is really a cluster, the automotive industry cluster in Detroit. There's lots of other great examples all over the world. Local clusters are really foundational to local economies. Those businesses in those clusters tend to sell products and services primarily to the local market. They are important building blocks. They are local services. However, the Go Virginia program was really designed to grow the pie. The example I always give when we talk about local clusters, for example, personal services, we could invest in creating more barber shops, but there's only so many heads to cut. So you end up not growing the pie, but just slicing the pie into smaller pieces. Does that make sense? And so that's really the distinction. You're right. I know. Mine grows very, very fast. You saw this earlier. This is that project development framework. For our newer members and some of our more tenured members, I want to touch on the application process again. It is important to understand when DHCD receives the application from the regional councils, they've already been vetted and approved. This process starts at the top of our chart, moves through the support organization, that's the staff, to the regional council. The regional council then approves, denies, or defers an application. Then that application comes to DHCD. Staff reviews it. The work group, which includes subject matter experts and board members, evaluates the application and develops a consensus recommendation. What you see in the board packet in the form of a summary is a small fraction of a full application with a supporting budget, letters of support, a return on investment calculator, and the like. That recommendation comes before you, and there's a couple of options: to approve, to deny, or to defer. A deferral simply means the project goes back to the applicant for future refinement. This particular body meets again in about 90 days, and we would expect that applications with merit that are deferred will come back before you, perhaps in a slightly more refined format. So just in terms of timing, I do want to make it clear, DHCD can administratively, Maggie, Director Beal to my left, can administratively approve projects of $100,000 or less. We do that within 9 days of receipt. So the deadline for planning grants, I believe, is the 21st of the month. And we have a target to have those evaluated and a responses back to applicants by the last day of the month. So typically a 9-day turnaround from receipt to decision. In terms of board approved applications, we received these applications about 7 weeks ago, which allowed us time to do a staff review, to organize the work groups, to allow a week for additional feedback, and that's coming before you today. So 6 to 7 weeks, and we've actually analyzed this a number of times, but always looking to squeeze time. We have 4 grant cycles each year. The evaluation criteria that has been established for this program includes 4 primary factors: economic impact. We talked a little bit about metrics and core program outcomes. Is the project aligned to produce those? And is there a demonstration of economic impact? Regional collaboration on a number of levels. Is there alignment with their regional growth and diversification plan? Do we have the meaningful participation of 2 or more localities? And is there active collaboration with industry or other partners? Of course, we also think about regional collaboration from a budgetary perspective. How costs are shared can often be a pretty powerful demonstration of collaboration as well. Project readiness. Are the partner commitments in place? Are the match resources in place and eligible? And are the appropriate milestones been established? So we do request that applicants submit a milestone schedule. Our grants are typically 24-month grants. It's not a lot of runway. You've got to be ready, and you've got to be ready to run, and also a drawdown schedule so that we understand that the applicant understands the pace in which they're going to be doing the things that they're requesting state resources to support. And finally, sustainability. Does the applicant have a clear and clean and executable plan? has the applicant demonstrated success in sustaining previous grant-funded endeavors? Do they have a funding strategy that is executable, oftentimes with local government participation as part of that sustained strategy and sustained demand for the project? So we're going to talk about 9 projects. The total Go Virginia request is about $5 million. The applicants are bringing forward $4.4 million in match, which includes $835,000 in local match. Now, you heard a comment earlier today for those that were here about match. Now, the enabling legislation defines the match for the Go Virginia program, and it's a 2-to-1 match. So for every $1 that's organized regionally, the state will provide $2. The local match is not in statute. It is a policy of this board that a certain portion of the match for each project will come from local governments, and that is, again, just a demonstration of their commitment to the project. The gentleman, Keith Boswell, who spoke earlier, was concerned about local match, and certainly we do have rural areas and areas that are fiscally distressed. So we have developed, I think, a very clear and certain local match waiver process, so that that local match is not a deterrent to some of our local community partners, certainly not from being involved in a Go Virginia program. So I just did want to make sure our newer members understood the context of those comments as well. Industry cluster targets, I've already mentioned. There are actually 6 workforce development projects in this stack, 2 that we would categorize as startup ecosystem or innovation projects, and 1 that is really working to scale up a cluster. So I'm going to talk about each of them, and we have been making some small changes to the board summaries, but I do appreciate particularly folks like Ken Johnson, who's always reminding us to make it clear, to make it simpler, and add information that can help you make more informed decisions. I would also like to just perhaps recognize the members who participated in our work groups before I get started. Haywood Fralin, John King, Emily O'Quinn, and Jim Chang all served as board members in the review process. I would encourage you to do it. They've reviewed the applications in full, and as we move through the material, should be able to speak to the discussions that occurred during the review if you have any questions. We also had a number of subject matter experts, including Scott Denny, Senior Program Manager for Advanced Air Mobility at the Virginia Department of Aviation, Dr. Angela Lawhorn, who is the Director of Career Education Programs with the Virginia Community College System, Amanda Hilton, who is the Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at ILR, Andrea Dixon Schesbender, who is the Energy Efficiency Workforce Coordinator at Virginia Energy, Sneha Atwal, Vice President of the Manufacturing Division at Virginia Economic Development Partnership, Jesse Fritz, Senior Business Manager at VEDP, Conaway Haskins, VP of Entrepreneurial Ecosystems at the Virginia Innovation Partnership Corporation, and also Aisha Johnson, who is similarly a business manager at VEDP. And we are going to present all of the applications. Chair O'Quinn will call for a discussion and a vote. I am really excited to share them with you. And again, welcome any comments or questions that you may have about the form of the board summaries, the function, and perhaps after the meeting, how you can get more involved in application review. So the first project we're going to discuss today has the acronym HAMMER, the Hampton Roads Advanced Manufacturing Modernization with Emerging Robotics Program. This is coming to us from Region 5, and we've provided a map in this slide. The green is the part of the state that this application is coming from. So if you haven't memorized your regions yet, hopefully this will be a visual cue for you. The Gen Edge Alliance is the applicant. This is a cluster scale-up project. The goal is to grow and expand the advanced manufacturing industry in Region 5 by providing workforce training and technical assistance to small and mid-sized manufacturers regarding the integration of something called collaborative robotic welding technology, or cobiotics. Gen Ed is seeking funding to expand the adoption of cobotic welding technology and training in Region 5. Currently, the organization offers these services to larger shipyards and affiliates through funding from the National Shipbuilding Research Program. This application would allow them to use existing assets to broaden access to small and mid-sized manufacturers, including providing integration assistance, support in developing weld quality procedures, and guidance on accessing capital. The City of Norfolk and the City of Newport News are both providing support to this project. The outcomes, and again, we're going to track this during the grant period, 30 businesses served, 20 businesses expanded, 90 individuals trained, and the applicant has a partnership with Virginia Tech professional development for continuing education, a number of 60 job placements, 2 new workforce training programs implemented, and 90 credentials awarded. You can see the Go Virginia request of $669,000. The match is appropriate, including local match, and the board staff is recommending this for approval, and there is an accompanying local match waiver for approval as well. The next project is the Region 2 Project RISE. Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center is the applicant, and this project is designed to support information emerging technologies, aerospace and autonomous systems, and advanced manufacturing. This again is the startup ecosystem or innovation category. We do have a number of participating localities: Botetourt, Pulaski, Roanoke County, and Montgomery County are all providing advisory, in-kind, or cash support to this project. The goal is to create a startup ecosystem based in the universities of Roanoke and New River Valley region, providing commercialization funding for promising technologies, an incubator for new ventures, and a suite of AI tools and mentors to assist regional entrepreneurs. They are considering basing this out of Virginia Tech's Corporate Research Center, expanding offerings at the Entrepreneurship Resource Center through 3 primary activities: technical assistance, mentorship development, and again, on-call AI experts and tools. They're requesting $648,000. Go Virginia funds will be used for commercialization, contract services, training, outreach. The majority of the match for this project is being applied to the construction, lease, and administration. Of the match, $435,000 is cash match, and the remainder is in kind. We've been asked to provide report on prior grant performance. The Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center was awarded a grant for a project in 2021. It was focused on the development of lab space. The outcomes for this project included a number of jobs created or filled, the number of businesses expanded, and the number of businesses served, and the amount of capital raised, and that's all in your project proposal. Staff is recommending a deferral on this project. We believe it has incredible merit and obviously supported by the Region 2 Council. Some additional questions regarding integration with other services in the region to the point about alignment. You can ask questions now if you'd like to. I'm happy to answer them.
Definition of commercialization funding.
Yep, absolutely. So I think there are some questions among the work group about exactly what that will entail. Specifically, the request is asking for technical support, proof of concept support for innovators, and also supporting instruction and training programs with experts. The commercialization funding, I do believe, is already supported by Virginia Tech through another grant source or through their general fund. Those types of questions were some of the questions I think that the work group was focused on. Yep, thank you. All right, the next application is from Region 4, again highlighted. We're talking about an area from just north of Richmond all the way to the North Carolina line. This applicant is an organization called Startup Virginia. Henrico County and the city of Richmond are both providing cash for this project. Their goal here is to expand the ecosystem in Region 4. They're going to be introducing new incubator programs, stage-specific incubator programs that will cover 3 areas, providing extension of their current offerings. That is ideate, launch, and grow. Obviously, the ideate program will focus on working with founders transitioning from a business concept to an early product. The launch program will concentrate on founders going from first customers to consistent revenue. And then the grow program will focus on founders scaling their businesses past the $1 million annual recurring revenue mark. It's going to provide increased access to services, primarily through new space in the Willow Lawn area of Henrico. And for folks that aren't familiar, that's the western side of the county. The county is going to be purchasing a building there, and they're making a pretty significant commitment to covering renovation costs and offering some rent subsidy to Startup Virginia. They intend to provide long-term stabilization of the facility and the activities by waiving rent to Startup Virginia. And then they're also going to be really focused on capital access programming, not capital per se, because at this time, Go Virginia funds cannot be used to provide direct capital investment to a firm, nor can it capitalize a fund that would do the same. So really the programming and the infrastructure needed for these types of efforts. The Go Virginia request is 1.47 million. The total match is 734,000, and the local portion of that is 427,000. I do want to mention that there's some additional funding in the project, private sector that's notable. Capital One, Bergen Construction, Luck Companies, Kiter, Williams Mullins are all providing cash to support this project, which we think is a very significant contribution to the effort as well. We are recommending this for approval. You can see that the outcomes are listed here. The next application is Say Yes to LYH Region. Do you have any? I think we got a few LYH Region folks here, Paul. The Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance is the applicant. The city of Lynchburg and Campbell County are jointly providing cash match for this project. It is a workforce development strategy. They're requesting a very modest, by Go Virginia State Board standards, it's not a planning grant, it is a pilot. Well, it's really a small scale implementation project, and you can see the amount here. They do have the required local match, total match, and the local match is listed. What they'd like to do is expand the region's workforce by attracting and retaining talent through the development of a web-based talent attraction and retention portal. They envision this portal having a number of features. It is going to provide a bit of a roadmap, if you will, for residents in the region to enter occupations with a real focus on advanced manufacturing. They would also like to provide content to allow area manufacturers to recruit workers from outside the region. So there is going to be a bit of a quality of life, and they actually cite Get to Know the Noke, which is Roanoke's regional talent portal. Go Virginia funds are going to be used for planning, website development. Staff is recommending this project for approval. Yes. It is an implementation project. So the board policy currently allows us to approve planning grants, pilots, or feasibility studies. This is an implementation project. This is the beginning, middle, and end of this effort. So the other reason I felt it important that this applicant direct this to the state board is it is speaking to a topic of talent attraction, which again is not a space where Go Virginia has taken a strong position. The state made an investment in 2 pilots in talent attraction. DDP is kind of leading the charge there. One of them is hubbed in Hampton Roads and the other one in Roanoke. I'm very anxiously awaiting the results of those two pilots. Because I think that could inform this organization moving forward.
To the community, could you just explain how this is different than other websites that might exist to manage employers?
Yeah.
Because that seems to be covered pretty well by the private sector. So
Yeah.
this
So it's going to do a couple of things. I think it's going to provide, so they've been working on some talent pathway grant projects, discovery projects. So I think the applicant feels that the portal will be helpful for 3 reasons. One, it's going to be helpful to educators, individuals that are training workers in the region, so they have a clear understanding of the needs of manufacturers in the community and which employers are hiring and looking for talent and in which occupation. So on one hand, it is a tool for educators so that they can understand more clearly the types of jobs and careers they should be preparing students for. There's another portion which is designed really for job seekers to provide a little bit of a clearer roadmap and access to a variety of support services that you may need as a job seeker. And then the third portion is really, I think, going to be a resource site for employers to help them sell not just the employment opportunity, but the region, its quality of life, and some of those assets. We did have a fair amount of conversation about duplication. So for example, Virginia Has Jobs now has regional portals. You can actually drill down to the regional level and explore employment opportunities. What Lynchburg does not have now, that I think this site particularly adds value, is this the educator directed content, right? These are the jobs that exist in our community and where we need to train people to go. And then right now, Lynchburg really does not have I'll say a story to tell if you're selling Lynchburg, the region, as a career destination.
What happens if we didn't fund this?
I think it's likely the resource would not exist. The Lynchburg Regional Business Alliance is very, resourceful. They have membership organizations, and certainly they could reach out to members in the business community and see if they could find additional support.
Good discussion. Are there other questions on this project before we move ahead? Okay.
Jack, could you see if you can get rid of that small box for me? Thank you. Where it says recording and transcription. You should be able to just close it, I think.
Not showing up on this side.
Curious. The next project is United Way of Central Virginia Child Care and Workforce Development Project. This applicant is United Way of Central Virginia. The participating localities are Lynchburg and Bedford. It's Region 2 and related to the letter that Cody read this morning. The targeted industries are information, emerging technologies, and advanced manufacturing. This is postured as a workforce development application. But the type of project is planning, feasibility, and small-scale project pilot. Now, the amount of this grant request, $101,000, Mr. Fleet, to your point, it is a planning grant, but I do believe the Region 2 Council posted it as $101,000 so that it would come to this board to really call the question, right, about childcare. So I appreciate their creativity always. The applicant proposes to undertake research and planning activities to support the development of a child care and workforce center. This effort will include the development of a business plan and a number of additional activities, establishing an advisory or steering committee, creating an employer roundtable, conducting demand analysis for the proposed child care center, and developing marketing materials for the center. Go Virginia funds will be used for salaries, to conduct the needs assessment, fiscal management, et cetera. the majority of which, United Way of Central Virginia will be self-performing. The match is being applied to the acquisition of the child care facility building, some additional salary support, indirect costs. I would like to note that this particular application, the majority of the match is coming from BWX Technologies in the form of cash, which is going to include acquisition, deposit of future building, salary for the United Way of Central Virginia CEO, and other related support for the construction of the building. Staff is recommending denial, not to approve. This application is not in one of the targeted traded sector industries. We do recognize that limited access to childcare can limit labor force participation, but we feel that this is an important topic that could perhaps be referred to the Governance and Policy Committee for future discussion.
Questions on this one?
Okay. You see it's not in one corner, it's forced to work. That's why we're doing.
We're denying it because it is not focused on, it is not in, the product is not going to support one or more of the targeted trade sector industries. The business plan development itself for a child care center would not be an approved activity.
And their council pushed it to 101, so it will come before us.
Yes, sir.
If you remember the discussion about healthcare previously. Yes. So sending this to Governance and Policy will continue the discussion.
And I don't know, Secretary Slater, you're working quite a bit in the workforce space. Are you hearing? Stating the obvious. Stating the obvious, I guess what I was going to say, is there anything that from your discussions and conversations?
Child care is one of the key barriers to creating jobs and getting people in jobs. But I do think that the board needs to look at child care holistically as to whether or not that is a path that the board must go down, much the way that it made the healthcare decision. And I think just based on the information that I have, policy committee is probably the best place to discuss this and go back to work.
I think religious and religious is like some kind of make exceptions.
Yeah.
You know, when you make exceptions, say you make exceptions, you make exceptions for this purpose. This region needs this type of support in a healthy way. I'm not going to debate it today, but we can talk about it later. But
yeah.
There are ways to do.
Yep. I agree with you, and I think the signatories on the letter that Cody read and the additional request of support for child care investments from Region 8, I think just helps you understand what a pervasive and statewide issue this is. So we're happy to support you. I think there's a lot of good conversations going on around child care. And in fact, the Virginia Chamber, I believe, is in the midst of doing an employer survey to better understand how child care availability is affecting the recruitment and retention of workers. So that could be an important data point for this board to consider as well.
It was interesting. I didn't hear all the regions sign off on the letter.
They did not, and I can't speak to who was asked to do so, but we do have 2, 3, and 5, and 8. So we do have 4 of the regions basically formally stating to you today that this is something that they would like the board to consider.
And as part of Governance and Policy taking a look at this, I think that we could ask the other regions for their opinion of whether or not they agree that this is critical for their outreach and recruitment as well.
Just on back to Region 6, I don't believe our council had any time in resolve the position.
Okay.
That's the decision, yes or no, it's just time.
This project would lead to construction of a child care center.
Yes, sir.
We don't typically do construction.
what they're requesting funding for is basically to develop the business plan for the center, not to construct it per se, but basically develop the business plan and model.
We talked earlier in the retreat about how to share information across the whole state. And are there times when we push information up to the state? And I'm glad we have two secretariats here. In some ways, Go Virginia only has one pool of money, and we've got to decide how to use it and what the priorities are. And I'm not saying childcare is or isn't. It's just it keeps. There's only a pool of money, and we just keep growing where we need to put those precious dollars.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Earlier today, we talked about housing as infrastructure, childcare as infrastructure, and I also think we are probably in reality of Mission Creek at the same time. But we know from an economic development standpoint, those two things are necessary for good movement. The only thing I wanted to ask, as we acknowledge that, is on the policy side, if we decide that there is no exception, it is outside the scope of what we're trying to do we offer other resources for folks to go to say, do we think this would be better suited over here? Because I think there are really critical elements that these regions need desperately. And I would love for us to be able to offer some assistance, at least in terms of directional assistance for them. Do we do?
Sure.
Sarah, do you want to take?
Absolutely. I mean, as staff, if we have a proposal come that is not Go Virginia, within the Go Virginia framework, we'll refer them to other resources. I myself, on the topic, have had a number of conversations with the Department of Education and the Early Childhood Education Foundation. There's a relatively new initiative called Shovel Ready Virginia, which is very much focused on understanding the childcare landscape. They've recently launched a statewide dashboard on supply and demand. So we do have some really objective data to react to on this point. And in fact, they just released a study, I believe in August, that had some very specific recommendations, and Jason Alkubi served on that committee. So yes, to your point, and if it's a building, there are actually other resources within my division to help with the rehabilitation, adaptive reuse for a building. So we always move folks to those types of resources. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the feedback.
Yes,
Very
wonderful
helpful.
discussion.
All right, next project.
The next project is from Region 5. This project is called Energy Resilience and Sustainability Program, or ERAS. This particular project, the applicant is Tidewater Community College. The City of Portsmouth and Virginia Beach are providing match, both in kind and cash. The targeted industry is aligned with one of the Region 5 priorities, and that is clean energy. The goal here is to increase the pool of qualified workers in Go Virginia Region 5 working in the clean energy industry. They propose to develop and launch a global wind organization certification program to support the offshore wind industry and adjacent some Coast Guard training activities as well. This new program will include planning and or constructing a new facility, to lease or to renovate an existing one to serve as the GWO certification center. They propose to launch 2 different training curriculum, basic safety training, basic technical training, and be the first in-region facility to offer these courses, which are industry recognized as vital to addressing the projected workforce needs for the offshore wind industry. They're requesting 1.2, rounding up, $8 million. They do have matching funds of $621,000, including local matches demonstrated. The total project budget is $2.3 million. They're proposing that during the grant period, up to 160 people would be trained. 120 of those would be placed in jobs. 10 different businesses could be served, 2 new apprenticeships, 4 new programs implemented, and 150 credentials awarded. Staff is recommending this project be deferred. There was some discussion during the work group regarding the status of the facility in particular. The total request, they're asking for a significant amount of that request to go towards the cost of a lease. And obviously a building of this unique quality and characteristics has not been yet identified. And then there's also some concerns about the long-term sustainability of the facility. We think the project has merit, very much aligned with Region 5 goals, but we're recommending deferral. The next project is a FAA Uncrewed Aerial Systems College Initiative Program. The applicant is Accomack Northampton Planning District Commission, but the community college in the Eastern Shore is actually going to be the recipient or the implementing organization. This application is focused on the interests of the uncrewed systems and aerospace industries, also high priority focus for Go Virginia Region 5. This is to increase the pool of qualified workers supporting this industry. They are proposing to develop an unmanned aircraft system focused business and workforce development program. The business aspect of the project will deliver air services to area businesses and partners, including NASA Wallops, the U.S. Navy, etc. The workforce program aims to strengthen STEM education and expand workforce opportunities. Grant funding will primarily support upgrades to a proxy fixed-wing UAS airframes, which have been donated to the Community College Foundation. We'll also launch a new UAS curricula and enable a scalable revenue-generating business model for the community college. They're requesting $721,000. The outcomes are listed above. This project obviously demonstrates a clear connection to traded industry sector. It does not provide sufficient evidence that the proposed UAS airframe will be utilized for student training purposes. And so we'd like to understand more clearly exactly which programs and curriculum will be supported with these assets so that we can better align the funding request with the production of the outcomes that you see here. We're recommending deferral on this project. Yes, yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, absolutely. I have the budget in front of me, but we can discuss this in more detail. Yep. Yep. Fair, fair. Yeah, sustainability. I agree. We can discuss that. There is one new position that I see listed here in the budget, but I'll go into more detail. We'll follow up. Yes.
We funded a lot of immigration services.
We have.
Do we have some data on what is a good proxy for how many people we should be training for each dollar spent?
Yeah, we do.
There's some numbers in these projects that outstanding, and then there's less outstanding.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so if there's I'm not saying we have a bar, but is there a number that we think about is
I think it is an interesting topic. I do think I would just caution the board from coming up with a standard. Some of these projects require our primary investment, your primary investment is equipment. And if you have to buy I'll make a number up, $300,000 piece of equipment that may train a certain number of students during the grant period, the student output per dollar. But we can look at some averages. Now, Secretary Slater, who I briefed before the meeting, he has a good eye for, this seems like a good value because he looks at all sorts of workforce programs. The cost of an individual trained is a number, he and I talk about a lot, as well as the cost for an individual placement. or a job fulfillment, if you will. So that is something we obviously have longitudinal data, 250 completed projects, probably 50% of those in the talent development category. We can grab some data points for you.
I think that's a good point, because even if it is a range, then we can get some context around what defines that range and why. So that as we're looking at these, we've got at least some guardrails to put them within.
I'm not asking you a question. Great.
Sure. No.
Because it's very expensive to train out for industry.
Yeah, right.
I was just, I think, one of the things that I look at is ranges in particular types of training, like, for the things that I deal with, the range for what it costs to train barbers versus what it costs to train welders versus what it costs to do pipe fitters.
That's fine.
Okay, so getting a general, we've got a general idea of what that costs, what it could cost, and what I think it costs.
That's great. I'll happily work on that because we would be able to isolate it by industry. It's in our grant management system as well by industry type. So that may get to an occupational alignment or grouping as well. Okay, cybersecurity dual enrollment program. The applicant is Rockbridge County Public Schools. We do have regional participation between Rockbridge County and the city of Lexington. They have a jointly funded career technical education program. They would like to increase the pool of workers supporting IT and emerging technologies, particularly within the cybersecurity subsector. They are going to establish a cybersecurity program designed to build a pipeline of graduates for high demand fields. They'll be working in partnership with Mountain Gateway Community College. The program will offer industry recognized certifications in a number of high demand areas, including cybersecurity, and the credentials are listed in your meeting packet. CompTIA A+, CompTIA Network Plus, Net Plus, CompTIA Security Plus, and Security Pro certification. This is a very modest request, and to your point, Cliff, why is it here? It is an implementation project. We were very impressed in meeting with the Rockbridge County Public School leaders, as well as the city of Lexington. They are fully paying the cost of dual enrollment as well as exam costs for students. So if you've ever taken one of these tests, there is a cost associated with a CompTIA certification, and they're making some general contributions. Mountain Gateway Community College will be certified as a Pearson VUE testing center. This is important because to get these credentials, you've got to go to a recognized Pearson VUE testing center. It's very important that they be proximate to the students. So we expect that to happen by the end of 2025. We're recommending this application for approval.
I have a question. I think their outcomes are so modest. 20 people trained. I realize the dollars are modest as well, but this is an important area, and it would seem like a lot of young people would want to be trained. So I just thought, I was stunned by the 20. I thought, 100 maybe.
Yes. I'm going to have to remember here, Cody, was this one that was submitted for a 1-year grant period? I apologize. I thought it was your region, so that's why I'm kind of looking in that direction. We can look at the application again and just make sure we understand clearly the performance period for the grant. Sorry about that, Cody. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. The majority of the requests will be used by specialized computer equipment to support the cybersecurity training.
So I do think it's worth noting that this is a pretty rural area. So the number of students in those schools is not very high. So though the number that you're looking at is pretty low, it's reasonable for the student body that you'd be looking at in Rockbridge County.
I appreciate that, but I know a fair amount about Rockbridge County. There's a considerable number of students. So it just seemed modest to me.
We'll ask additional questions. Thank
It's a
you.
good idea.
Yeah.
More people want to do it.
All right, the second one is for a manufacturing workforce development project, similarly with Rockbridge County Public Schools. Rockbridge County and the city of Lexington will be working jointly to extend dual enrollment certification, skill development experiences in partnership with Mountain Gateway. They are going to be focused on expanding certification offerings in the manufacturing and welding labs. Specifically, they're going to be establishing a manufacturing technician level 1 program, or MT1, offering OSHA forklift operator certification, NCCER core, which is basic construction skills, a number of dual enrollment welding certifications, which you see listed in your packet. I won't go through all of the AWS certification subtypes, and then fluid fundamentals, really working to integrate that in their CTE programming. They're requesting $131,000. They have $71,000 in match. The matching funds from the localities are coming to provide related equipment and materials, as well as gas infrastructure for the facility. The outcomes that you see listed here. The design and development of this program, and we do just want to mention, has been really influenced by industry, which we think is a strength of the program. And have really good partnerships in place. We're recommending this application for approval.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you.
That was a lot, but 9 projects for us to take a look at. Getting time back. Well, it's working. Is anybody else interested in having further discussion, questions about any of the projects
Included that we have heard about today. Okay. So we have a block in front of us and the recommendations from staff. If we would like to take action as a block, I'll need a motion to that effect, but would anybody like to pull anything out of the block to be voted on separately? Okay, well then we will take this up as a block if we have a motion to approve as recommended, correct?
As recommended.
Great, and a second? Yes, Mr. Johnson, question.
How would voting block if staff was denied?
Then you would be voting for the staff recommendation to deny.
Staff recommendations.
Correct, yes, so we would be taking them as recommended.
I could do this.
Just a follow-up question.
Yes,
So
please.
we voted to deny, per, and then additional questions.
So on each of the projects, you've got your staff recommendation. So whatever that staff recommendation is what we would be moving forward.
During the discussion, talking about 2 projects, maybe for additional questions. So is would that change?
So when a project is deferred,
this level, then it can go back to region
Okay.
for further analysis, refining, and we'll often come to their next meeting. Thank you.
So we're essentially voting as staff recommendation.
Yes.
Sorry, Ken, what was that?
So we're essentially voting as staff recommendation.
that is correct, yes. Yes. So knowing this, would anybody like to take anything out of the block? Okay, we have a motion that's been properly seconded. Any other discussion before we take that vote? Okay, all those in favor of approving as staff requests all 9 projects, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, very good. The block passes. Thank you. And thank you, Sarah, for you and your team and all the work on all these projects. It's a lot that happens behind the scenes. Okay, the next on our agenda is the Governance and Policy Committee report, which I will provide. In addition to the nomination of officers that we obviously took up earlier, we did discuss several other items as a committee, one of which was a JLARC recommendation to eliminate or reduce the 20% local match requirement. And after discussion, the committee chose not to advance a policy change to the board due to the changes in the Code of Virginia that reduced the total match requirements from 1-to-1 to 2-to-1. Because the 20% local match requirement is based on the total match requirement and not the requested award amount, the code change inherently reduces the local match burden as well. And so the committee may need to further discuss this at a future meeting, but
I think we will have a good test case period to see if this is going to work and meet the need without further editing of the board policies. We also discussed a JLARC recommendation to increase the funds available to regions for the planning purposes. We heard a lot about that earlier today in the retreat portion of our meeting. And for background, the state board adopted the policy number 3 in 2018, which allows each region to dedicate up to $250,000 of their per capita allocation towards planning purposes, with a recognition that while outcome-driven implementation projects are the core goal of Go Virginia, planning can be a very useful tool in helping to bolster the pipeline of future implementation projects. The JLARC report recommended potentially increasing the planning cap for each region from $250,000 to 25% of a region's allocation. While the smaller population regions would experience no change in that dollar figure, larger population regions would see an increase as high as up to $1 million available for planning purposes. And after we discussed this as a committee, we chose to postpone taking action on this to allow DHCD staff to further analyze the impacts of planning on implementation pipelines. And we anticipate taking this up at our next meeting after they've done that additional analysis. The last item that was discussed by the committee was an updated board policy number 3 relating to planning grant limitations. Conversations between DHCD staff and the VEDP and other regional economic development organizations have resulted in an understanding that the historic investments in site development for business attraction and expansion purposes have led to the universe of identified sites for investment and advancement becoming sparse. With that in mind, the committee recommended an update to board policy 3 to exclude grants for site development planning from counting against the regional planning limits. And the goal of this change is to incentivize projects that seek to leverage Go Virginia funds for site identification and prioritization efforts. This function will complement the work of VEDP's Business Ready Sites initiative and help regions identify their next generation of sites for future VEDP investment. And the final note for the Governance and Policy Committee report would be just to mention that we'll need a new governance and policy chair. So if anybody is interested in stepping into that seat, please let me know. The hope would be to talk with any interested candidates between this meeting and the next and have that appointment ready for our December meeting. Next on our agenda, unless there are questions about governance and policy, next on the agenda would be the Regional Council Committee report, and that is John King. Would you please provide that committee report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm pleased to provide a brief update on behalf of the Regional Council Committee. While the committee did not formally meet this quarter, we're actually planning for our next meeting with a goal to meet in October. That meeting will continue the momentum built over the last year and focus on several timely topics. By that time, updated growth and diversification plans will be nearly complete across the regions. Our discussion will focus on how these plans reflect evolving economic priorities and how we can work together to support implementation going forward. These plans remain the cornerstone of Go Virginia strategy at the regional level. We want to ensure that the board stays engaged with this process. We'll also begin a committee level discussion on how recent and upcoming changes to board policy number 3 and number 9 can support regional planning and project development. These updates were informed by DHCD's recent planning grant study and reflect a broader interest from the board in improving the connection between planning efforts and implementation outcomes. Finally, we plan to begin efforts to launch a self-assessment for regional council members, an idea that emerged in earlier committee discussions. We look forward to reconvening the committee this fall and continue to serve as a conduit between the state board and regional leadership, as long as I don't have to solve the child care question.
Line in the sand, I appreciate that. Any questions about the Regional Council Committee report? Okay, thank you, John. The last item on the agenda today would be information items. And Sarah, would you please cover those for us?
Absolutely. Just real briefly, there are board summaries for the following projects. These projects were administratively approved by Director Beal. That included a project in Region 2, which is called the New River Valley Site Advancement Strategy. Again, really looking to explore that next generation of sites. Region 4 had a project approved similarly in the Gateway. Is going to be looking at sites for energy intensive industries. We've talked a little bit about Region 5 and their investment playbook. They've gotten off to a very, very exciting planning effort start there, and enjoy to learn more about that. Region 6 was approved to launch a plan called River to Table, which will be a blue catfish industry study for the Northern Neck and Middle Peninsula. For folks who are not familiar, the blue catfish problem is a big problem. It was a fish that was originally introduced for sport into our rivers that is now invasive in the Chesapeake Bay and represents, by some estimates, 70% of all the biomass in the bay. However, they're delicious. And so
What, do you want us to eat a lot more of them to take care of this problem?
well, that is one way that Region 6 and folks at VDAX are actually looking to see if there is a commercial market for blue catfish, and of course all of the processing that would be needed, cold storage that would be needed, new assets potentially for the watermen. So I think it's a really unique opportunity, and Virginia Tech has developed some very unique capabilities to help support the localities in these areas address this challenge. I don't want to go into too much detail because Jack knows it all behind me, but this is an invasive species that's decimating some of the other very popular species, including oysters in the bay. So it's really important that I think we come up with a response here. They really are. They really are. And finally, Region 6 is also working to address a healthcare shortage. I believe since this board adopted the revised policy that allowed for healthcare industry investments, this, I believe, is the first. And they're going to be working on employer surveys to really understand how shortages are affecting their workforce, and helping to advance a practice management certificate program, which is not currently existing, as a way to expand the system's capacity to deliver healthcare services. You just voted on your future meeting schedule for 2026. It's listed here. We have adjusted to move the March 24th meeting to accommodate our legislators to get it a little further away. Of course, we never know what's going to happen, but from the end of session, so folks can go home and rest up a bit. We do have the same cadence of in-person and virtual meetings. Of course, that's up to board leadership to consider that, and on what intervals. The board can meet twice a year virtually. They just can't be two concurrent meetings. And if anybody does need to participate electronically, please do reach out to myself or Shara or Cody to have a conversation about remote meeting participation for various reasons as allowed.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Any further questions or discussion before we say goodbye? Thank you for joining us today, all the board members, and thank you to everybody else who came to be here in person and remotely online. We appreciate your interest in Go Virginia, and we will see you in December, if not before. We'll be adjourned.
Thank you.